Frank, there's been a lot of positivity about the place, but is the challenge now to turn it into something a bit more tangible, because there is the opportunity before the break for the World Cup to take a place in the top half of the table, to take your place in the next round of the League Cup as well?
Yeah, what is tangible? Just points. Yeah, that would be great to finish this block well going into the World Cup. But yeah, I think it's positive because I think people can see, especially in-house, our fans and people here can feel that we're working hard, working in the direction. But we also understand the reality and the pace that sometimes that goes at, you know. So I think tangible is really just keep working in the right way, and then hopefully points and things like that come afterwards. But yeah, we're working. We're happy at the moment, but there's some, 3 big games for us now till we break up.
When you're looking for that consistency of results as well, what importance do you put on taking that next step in terms of getting back-to-back Premier League wins at home for the first time this season?
Yeah, I mean, they're really obvious things. They're things that you work towards, and they're never given and never easy in the Premier League. You know, and a lot of clubs in and around us will understand that, because getting consistency is what separates the top boys from the rest in the league who win titles and qualify for Champions Leagues, and sometimes they're operating in different ways to what we are. So we have to just strive, as I said, to control ourselves, how we train, how we prepare, and hope that the result of that is winning back-to-back games and getting some consistency on that front. Because
the fact you're facing Leicester, who are 18th, but just 3 points off yourselves, kind of shows how tight it is in there as well.
Yeah, it's really tight, and they're a great team. There's no doubt about it, and I think we've seen that in recent weeks. The team that they had a tough patch early in the season, but I think it shows resilience that they've turned a corner, and in terms of performance and result, it was never in doubt for me, because they're a team that have worked together for a few years with a very good manager. So yeah, the league is close in our area, we know that. So it's no point in looking around too much other than focusing on the game in front.
Just finally for me, Frank, obviously you know Brendan as well. I mean, you talk about needing resilience as a manager. Just what resilience has Brendan shown himself, because he's taken criticism from all quarters?
Yeah, with resilience of a manager that's been there, isn't he? You know, he's won titles at Celtic. He's managed the club the size of Liverpool, almost won the Premier League, and just improved players. Like all those things are in the bank for him. We all go through tough patches, and that was probably the first real tough one I guess he's had at Leicester. But what you saw was, from the outside, I don't know, I just saw someone who looked like they were confident that it would turn, because they work hard at what they do and they've got good support around them at the club. And I think that is, the sign of a good club and a good manager. And now you're seeing their performances get back to where they were. So yeah, it's going to be a really tough match for us.
A couple of good memories against them last season. Obviously, there was the late equaliser from Richarlison at Goodison, but I suppose the bigger one was away down there, and the scenes afterwards down at Leicester. Yeah,
but completely different, and they were very good in both games as an opponent. They were good at Goodison in the first half, particularly. It was a tough match for us, and we fought for a draw, and then we fought for a win, which was so important to us towards the end of the season. So it was a great atmosphere and great from our part. But again, it was a tough match. They're a possession team. They moved the ball really well. They've got great talented individuals in their team. So expect another tough one.
Thanks, Vinny. We'll go to Sonia, Premier League production.
Hi, in fact, just a word about defensively as well, because Leicester have obviously got a lot tighter at the back. You've had I think it's Everton's best start defensively for 16 years, and yet you've faced the most number of shots so far this season. What does that tell us?
Probably a few things. We're affecting the quality of shots against us. If it's the most number and we've got that good a record, then of course people are taking on more difficult shots than maybe they would have done last year against us. At face value, it seems like that, but there's lots of underlying stats on those points. And I've been on the flip of it. I've been on the flip in my management career, where we're defending very, very well and conceding a lot, maybe individual performances, goalkeeper, those things previously. At the minute, we've got good individuals doing their job. There's a good structure to our team, and a desire to defend our goal. And I think you just have to give credit on that point.
You mentioned goalkeeper. It's a good time to mention Jordan. Then his save ratio is 80% now, which is a good chunk more than all of his previous seasons. What is he doing at the moment that he's lifting that, or is it just the sheer number of shots that he's facing?
I think he's just playing at a high level as he was last year. I think it's Jordan is in the top bracket of goalkeepers in the world, in my opinion. He's England's number one, and when you look at the top teams in this country who've won titles in the last 2 or 3 seasons or more, their goalkeepers are world-class goalkeepers. Edison's and Allison's and these people, they are top-class goalkeepers. So they help your team. They make saves when you rely on them. They train well. I know that from Jordan's point. He's a great professional. So it's just him doing his job really well.
We seem to have talked about set pieces even before you even came here at Everton, and both yourselves and Leicester have conceded more from set pieces than any other team in the Premier League. What can you do? Is it sometimes luck? Is it, or are you going?
We've conceded more than this season.
Everton and Leicester have conceded more from set pieces than anybody else
This
in
season?
the league this season.
Yeah, you sure about that one? I don't know.
I'm going to go.
You might be right. I'm not sure either.
I'm told
So.
Leicester have conceded 26 and Everton have conceded.
26.
I'll double check that one. But
Leicester haven't conceded 26 from set pieces.
Maybe it's on target, but
All right. No, I'm not trying to be clever, because I think defensively, from set pieces, we've been very sound in many ways. So we need to continue with that. We can score more from set pieces. I think there's been a trend this season of teams maybe not scoring so much from set pieces. Maybe teams are tightening up. But yeah, it's not one for this season.
it's from the start of last season. Apologies.
Okay. Well, I came here in February, so let's leave that one.
That's good preparation.
Cheers.
From the reporter, isn't it?
No worries.
Apologies, Frank. So the other end of the pitch, anyway. Dom, full 90 minutes for him in the last game at Fulham. How's he reacted to that out on the training pitch?
Good, very good. He's trained through the week, and every game is more in the tank for him, and more confidence in his own fitness. And we can't expect goals every game. We all want that. He had a good chance in the last game that he would have wanted to take, but you see that he's becoming more like himself, and I think that's a great thing for us. So yeah, it's a big plus for us.
Good time for me.
Cheers. Sorry about that.
We'll go to Carl at the Press Association.
Hi Frank, we spoke about how the improvement, the defence has brought dividends, but how do you move on from there and get more goals into the team?
Play like we did against Palace. Play it with an intensity and a good energy in our game, and an idea that we want to play. And I think we have to continue with that. At Goodison particularly, use our positivity and the way we're playing. We've got good confidence. At Goodison, we're developing our game and trying to be more progressive in how we play. There'll be little blips in the road where maybe we're not as productive or creating enough in certain games in the last sort of month. But some of those games have been on the road in tough circumstances. But we just have to keep believing and understand that we have to work for that. If you look across our front line, Dominic obviously, and we brought Neil in, but like in terms of what goals do we get from wingers, we need to improve that because it's not been there, and it's normal. It's the development of a winger. These players that are plundering in 20 plus goals from wide areas, and Mo Salahs and the Raheem Sterlings. We're not doing that at 21. So when you look at our team and the young players we've got, sometimes it's like, okay, we're striving forward towards those things, and maybe then as we progress, we'll become more clinical in a scoring way. But yeah, we've got the idea of what we did against Palace. We scored 3 goals. We had good chances against Fulham. Probably could have scored at Fulham last week, but it wasn't to be.
Just check on team news issues. If you any issues or any returns? Or?
No, we don't. We've got Ben Godfrey's back on the training pitch with the team, which is great, and training well. Yerry Mina is at that last stage of that as well. He's trained a few days together this week consecutively, so he's very close to being able to play, and we're sort of we're at a decent position with that at the minute.
Thanks, Carl. We'll go to Alistair at the BBC.
Hi Frank. I don't know whether you saw comments this week which attributed to the Besiktas coach about Dele Alli. Said that maybe he's performing, or his efficiency was below expectations. I just wondered what you thought of that, and have you been in touch with him and to ask him how things are going out there for him?
No, I haven't been in touch with him personally, but James Vaughan, who does our loans, is in touch with all of our players that are out, and I saw those comments, but at the moment he's not playing for us. I don't watch their games regularly, if I'm honest. I've got enough on my plate here, but we will obviously check in with all our players. But so we're across it. But those comments I just saw, as you did.
There's been a lot of debate, obviously, around the World Cup in terms of the amount of games that are being played at the minute, and obviously quite a few players have been injured as well. I just wondered whether you'd sort of noticed maybe those that are included on that 55-man list amongst your squad, or more generally in the Premier League, whether sort of there's the signs of levels have dropped off at all, or your players may be conscious of getting an injury before the tournament?
No, not from my players. I think that's pretty impossible. I say impossible, I can't speak for everybody, can I? But I think if you were playing at this level, I wouldn't expect that from my players, and I haven't seen it. I think you have to keep at a level for your own form. if you're on fitness in the sense, keep doing the right things, which means you have to train at a good level to be able to play every week. And if this World Cup's coming quicker than ever in terms of the minute they stop, they'll pretty much go straight into it. They need to be at a good level. I think the injuries some of these injuries are normal. I've played when it was like Rooney's broken metatarsal or Beckham. I remember Beckham this, and so injuries happen. Maybe they're more frequent at the minute because of the squeeze of the fixture list for certain teams, particularly who are playing in Europe. Playing regularly every few days, so that squeeze seems to have affected it slightly, but it is what it is. But I've not seen any change in my players.
Have you seen any change in the levels of the Premier League, do you think, at all? In terms of the intensity, maybe? Do you
No.
think there's been a drop-off?
No, I haven't sensed that. I haven't seen that. It's the most intense league in the world, so maybe players that are playing in it regularly are maybe at more risk, maybe, because they have this. They have to repetitively train and play and perform at top levels, and that stresses your body. So maybe in the league that risk is there, but I think squads generally big enough to handle that. Particularly these teams that are playing in Europe, they generally have 25 players or so, 22 to 25 outfield players that can rotate in and out of and keep the level of the team. So that's just kind of where the modern day game is, and this World Cup was always going to bring around some issues around it because it's different to what we know before. But there were issues with that old World Cups. We always used to not complain, but wonder what to do with that 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks in between the end of the season and the start of the World Cup. That was a difficult thing to challenge, so they normally bring up different challenges.
I don't suppose you're willing to declare how many of you are on that 55-man squad from the Everton?
No, if it's not a public, I wouldn't declare it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just also wanted to ask you a bit about sort of off the field with the World Cup as well. You may have seen that overnight FIFA issued a letter which is basically calling on the 32 nations there to sort of almost concentrate on football really, rather than sort of get involved too much in the controversies. There's been stuff from various teams about sort of migrant worker deaths, workers' rights, even LGBT issues as well. I just wondered what you thought of that, whether that was right for FIFA to say that sort of thing, or whether teams and players should speak up if they felt the need.
I think it's the prerogative of either individuals or countries or teams if they feel strongly enough about something that they can speak up. I think that's fine. I think that's right, and I think it's sort of expected, but I also respect the privacy of people who don't want to and want to go and play football or not. I don't think that makes you a bad person. I think you have a right to speak up or not if you're in the public eye. The World Cup being in Qatar, I think, was always going to bring up these issues, and maybe bringing them up is a good thing generally going forward. That's my opinion on it as Everton manager.
Yeah, I think actually Jordan Henderson said something yesterday, or maybe even today, about it's not fair on players necessarily because they weren't the ones that chose for the World Cup to go to Qatar. That was FIFA. So do you feel like the questions should be directed at FIFA rather than the players?
Absolutely, and it seems like they've directed the question back, doesn't it? So I think it should be, and I don't think it should be on players if they're comfortable to speak and they feel strongly about something and they're saying something that I think is they feel in the right vein, the right cause, and I think fair play. But also, as I say, like I have to sit here and get asked that. Sometimes I don't want to give you my personal answer. It's not a bad thing. It's just the fact that I have some beliefs I think should be. You have that right to not and to get on with your job. The fact that the World Cup's in Qatar is what it is. I don't think it makes someone a bad person to go and represent their country there and stay quiet, or to represent their country there and speak about certain things that they believe strongly in.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alistair. We'll go to James Mountford at Radio Merseyside, please.
Hi Frank, just on the World Cup in terms of internally, how are you keeping the players who aren't going to Qatar in tip-top condition back here? Because unlike it's a summer World Cup, it obviously comes in the middle of a season.
Sure. Well, we're going to Australia for 2 games, so that's a good thing. It's great for us as a club to go out there and see our fans and play competitive games. Some players need them. Some players have not been playing so much. Players returning from injury. So that's a week. Then the players will have a little bit of time off, which again I think this season is good for those ones who are due it. And then we'll train back into the season with a couple of friendlies, probably behind closed doors to keep the lads with some match practice. And then it all starts again at the end of December.
Just ahead of the Palace game, is Nathan Patterson ready to start now? Sorry, the Leicester game.
The Leicester game, yeah. Sorry, yeah. He is ready to start. He came on last week, and it's more just my decision now of how ready to start he is.
And looking at your bench you named for the Fulham match, are you now able to name the strongest 20-man squad you've been able to do so since you've been at the club?
Yeah, since I've been at the club, yeah. Yeah, we've got a pretty clean bill of health on fitness-wise now. We've got some competition in areas of the pitch that wasn't there last season. So yeah, I am, and you know that's now for me to sort of manage that, manage the squad, manage in-game, manage players that want to play more minutes, because a good problem can sometimes give you other issues because players want to play. But we can't complain about feeling in a stronger position. So it's up to us to sort of take that forward.
Just finally for me, some more exciting pictures this week from the developments at Bramley Moor Dock. How excited are you when you see things actually coming together in a really exciting way?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's a huge thing for the football club to move in a forward direction to an amazing stadium that really important and special people at this club have made happen with a lot of work, and that's ongoing obviously. And it's an exciting factor to myself, to the players, hopefully the fans, because as much as Goodison has been an incredible place in the history of this great club, and let's try and transfer that across to this new stadium that is sort of rising every day as we speak, which is great. Thanks.
James. Will?
Hi Frank, just touched on the injury situation. It does feel like you have been like the walking wounded at times during the club. So you said you wanted to make the squads more robust over the summer, and sort of what changes have you made since them arrivals in the medical departments to improve availability?
Yeah, I mean we've made a couple of changes in the medical department, brought in some talented people, brought in people in the sports science area as well, and it's important to say at that point that it's not their responsibility as departments. They were always contributing factors to injuries. Some were long-term injuries when I came in. So I think it's a constant challenge for all teams. You look around and another team that could be having what's seen as a crisis. Liverpool recently have seen a list of players that can't play. So we all have it maybe certain times. You just have to do the best you can and cover as many bases. So some of that is also recruitment of players that you feel are robust and have a history of playing multiple games, because that normally means they put something together right in how they maintain themselves. So mixture of player, mixture of trying to improve certain departments and communicating and trying to get the players at the optimum level but keeping them fit.
With Yerry Mina, who's close to coming back, he's obviously has a lot of injury problems. How do you make him more available? And given his injury records, is it difficult for you to really plan him, not in your first team, but really plan to have him in your sort of core group of players, just because no one disputes his quality, but his injury records it speaks for itself really? Sure.
Some individuals have different factors involved, and obviously Yerry's history, since I've been able to deal with that, many times he's come off when he's played and missed periods of time. So we try and work with him. You try and make sure that you have a good relationship with the player. They also have to invest into it, and sometimes you have to sort of control their rehab and their training, and sometimes players get frustrated with that because they want to crack straight on out on the pitch to play, and we have to make sure that we know what we're doing, and sometimes hold back to try and maintain fitness. So those are challenging moments at times because everyone wants to get back and play, but we have to try and do the best we can with that one.